the coach told me, you're not even at 50%. Off the roster, not seeing the field, not even the roster. It kind of started playing with my head whether or not I was good enough, whether or not I had what it takes to be there. But then I said, all right, you're not going to break me. I used that. I went home, I busted my butt. And then I got called up to the national team, calling my parents and my dad, telling them, oh, it makes me so happy just thinking about it. I had a lot of friends at that time in América. Hey, you gonna come? We're excited. I get there, cold shoulders. You're on your own, no welcome, no nothing. I use that underdog mentality, the doubt, because you should be able to prove to everybody, like, I did this, but not just for them, for you, to show yourself.
Welcome to the Winners Club podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Wilson, and today I'm here with professional soccer player for FC Juarez, Miah Zuazua. So we're going to get into your mindset as a pro athlete, but first I want to hear about your journey to become a pro athlete. So let's take it back to the beginning. What are your first memories playing soccer?
Here in Dallas, Oak Cliff area, Keys Park. I grew up there and I started when I was 3 years old. Played with a boys team since probably up until the age of like 7. Played with a girls team a couple years older, and then from there I went competitive. Played with my dad's team. My dad made a team for my age group, and I graduated with them. So yeah, my early memories was literally there in Oak Cliff, Keys Park. Yeah.
During that time, did you have many recruitments from colleges, or was the dream of playing pro or in college a realistic option for you?
Unfortunately, I was injured most of my competitive years. I tore my ACL when I was 10, and then played with the Don Joy brace, those big old heavy braces, for like 4 years until I was old enough to get the adult surgery, which was 4 years later, which was kind of forced on me because I tore my meniscus that same leg. So yeah, I ended up getting the surgery. During that period of still playing with the brace, I was still getting recruited. I had options. My first main option was to go to North Carolina. I was speaking to the scout and everything, and we were on board to kind of verbally commit. And then my surgery, the second, I ended up tearing the other knee, and then kind of lost contact from there. But after that, I was kind of panicking. I didn't really have that many schools. I wasn't going to ID camps. My parents didn't really take me to ID camps. But I ended up going to University of Southern Miss with I want to say 3 of my other teammates, club teammates. So it was a great experience. I went 2 years there. Love the coach, love the university, and I think it was the best thing for me.
You went to Southern Mississippi. What made you make that decision to go there, and how was your experience overall during that time?
Well, I was initially verbally committed to North Texas, UNT, and it was not for me. I went on a visit, just didn't fit. Something told me, no, this isn't it. And good thing I did that. I decommitted. Good thing that the University of Southern Miss was interested as well, because a lot of my other teammates were going. So I was able to go with them and kind of tag along. But yeah, it ended up being like the best decision.
What was like a high and low during your time?
In college, I will say my freshman year, because not necessarily adapting. I want to say that University of Southern Miss was so used to losing at that point. Like, they were not ranked. They were not like one of the top teams in the league or in that conference. So kind of going in and having that mentality of winning, or wanting to win, as a freshman, and then the seniors are so used to losing all 4 of their years that they didn't really care, And me being super competitive, I was really, and I'm very vocal. I have a very strong personality, so I did feel like I butt heads a lot with a lot of the senior classmen, but that's only just because how competitive I was. And and I think my freshman year was mainly that, just kind of changing the mentality of everybody, because as soon as they left, that sophomore year was my last year, but we made it all the way to the finals of conference, and we went from being the team that got wiped out and was always getting scored on and losing, and just ended up making our way up. And I think it was just a mentality, just kind of getting rid of the bad apples and then, kind of changing that.
So eventually you got along with your teammates?
Yeah. I mean, it was just a few of them. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy. I think it was more like trying to push them, and they didn't really want to be pushed. Like, oh, it's their last year. They're kind of just trying to chill, and
Right.
then, things like that. And I feel like it's a different mentality. Like I said, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew where I wanted to be. And, with this career, with the sport, I took it very seriously. I mean, you ask anybody in college, they knew that I was doing things on my own time. They had the recreational center. I was there hitting the wall, using whatever resources that I can use on my own time. I was doing that because I saw a bigger picture. And I feel like me being the person that I am, I try to instill that mentality in everybody. That way, I win, we all win. So I think that was something that I tried to do. Other people didn't really like it. At the end of the day, it's not for everybody. So I think a lot of people did appreciate it, because once we started seeing results, then it was like, boom, the chip. Everybody kind of switched. So it was good.
And it worked out because you went to play pro at Tigres. So how did you decide to sign that pro contract after 2 years, and how that process worked?
No, my dad, all creds to him, all props to him, because when I was younger, I want to say probably about 13, 14, my brother played Dallas Cup with one of the teams that came from Mexico. So he guest played with them, and my dad ended up keeping that contact years later. So I'm in college, and he ended up seeing that the guy was working on the men's side, or the boys' side, the Fuerza Básicas, or the academy side of the Tigres. And he messaged him and asked him, like, hey, is there a way that you can get like a trial for my daughter on the women's side? And at that time, it was still barely starting. The rules for like that league wasn't open to Mexican Americans going just yet. So the summer before they opened that, I went. I went for a week of a trial over there with Tigres, and they loved me. I loved it. Like, it was, they treated them like professionals. I think a lot of people sleep on that league because it's just like, it's Mexico. But man, you're getting people from Europe right now that are going over there, and they're loving it. And it's a different ball game. Like, super different. But yeah, so I ended up doing that 1 week of kind of mini trial. And then the following year, when they opened up the rules for Mexican Americans, that's when they gave me the call. And I say, you know what, college is always going to be there. That contract's not. So let me just go ahead and go that way. And if it works out, it works out. Yeah.
What was the experience like of signing that first pro contract?
Man, relieving. It's just like knowing that everything I did leading up to that point was worth it. All the sacrifices and stuff like that was worth it. And I think all the hardships, I didn't know at that time that I was going to keep going through hardships, but, the hardships and the mental resilience that I had to have to just get through everything and kind of prove not only to myself, but to everybody, like, I did this, and I did it knowing that everything that I've done in the past, and everything that I've said, like, that I wanted to do, I'm going to fulfill it, manifested it, and I did that. So, yeah, I was super, super happy. My parents were super proud, and yeah, that was just only the beginning.
So you were at a high of signing the contract, and then I know Tigres was a difficult period for you.
Yeah, it was a wake-up call, because I've never been benched, never been on that side where it's like, whoa. But I learned, and I'm grateful for it, because, I mean, not seeing the field, not even the roster and stuff like that. It kind of started playing with my head, whether or not I was good enough, whether or not, I had what it takes to be there. But, it's not for the weak, man. You got to be confident in yourself. You got to know what you have. And at that time, I want to say it was like a year and a half, and I signed a 3-year contract. Me not know, I didn't even have an agent. I signed it. My dad was my agent, so he didn't know the rules. And it's just one of those things where we went in there and said, I'll take what I can get, and make the best of it. And I thought, okay, those 3 years, I'll get, games under my belt. I'll learn from the older players and, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like, I knew what I had to do, and I knew what I was up against too, because the competition's good, but I knew what I had, and I knew where I can be. So I told my dad, and then we found an agent. And then I want to say, like, after the year and a half, I said, no, I need to leave now. Like, because if not, then I'm going to stay here 3 years and I'm going to waste my time. And yeah, so I did that. I went to Juárez. We went, again, an underdog type of team, same thing with Southern Miss. Went from bottom of the table, getting our butts spanked, all that stuff, making our way up. They were literally last place, men's and women's side. Went there. I went there for, I want to say I was there for like 3 years, but when I signed my contract, I signed it for 6 months, and then it just became a home, you know. I did go through a lot there. I wasn't paid well. I was underpaid. I felt like there was a lot of things that had to do with, you know, management that needed to be changed. I felt like I wasn't valued as a player, because especially if I was being used, like they were using my image. You know, I was on the national team. I was the only one getting called to the national team, and that's a team that was like, you know, bottom of the table at that time. So it was like, how is it that I'm playing and I'm doing really well, and then you have players on the bench that were getting way more than me, you know, at that time. So it was like, I was frustrated, and I was frustrated because the times that I would ask, you know, like, hey, help me out a little bit, it was like, no, you know. So that was a little frustrating, which kind of made me look somewhere else. And honestly, it wasn't even about the money. It was just about growth too, because I felt like at that time I was in I don't know, like I just felt like I needed like another stepping stone. There's goals that I have that I want to, you know, make it to the bigger league after this. So it's like, okay, where do I go from here? Go to a bigger club. Okay, from that club, I want to go to even bigger club. You know, just kind of make my way up until I'm in the top league, competing against the top players, playing with the top players. That's the ultimate goal, you know. And things kind of worked out in a way where I left, went to América, had issues there, ended up coming back, and now they changed they cleaned house. They got rid of a lot of management, a lot of people there, and now this program is night and day. It's so good. It's so good now. So I'm really appreciative of everything.
Speaking of America, that's one of the biggest stadiums in all of Mexico. So what was the experience like playing your first game in that stadium?
The Clásicos, I think my favorite and my most memorable was scoring in the Clásico against América versus Chivas. I was a sub last 5-10 minutes of the game, tied, I think 1-1, and went in there and was able to get a goal in, and we won 2-1. That game, I mean, you felt it, right? It's a huge stadium, a huge stadium. So it didn't look as packed, but it was packed. It was packed for a Clásico. So I think especially for the women's side, you know, on the men's they fill it up, but on the women's it's a little more difficult. But yeah, no, it was a beautiful stadium. I'm still, like I said, I'm very grateful for everything that I went through, all the experiences, because you got to hit the lows before you can hit the highs, and when you do hit the highs, they feel real good, you know. So I think that's something that I'm very grateful for. And
you also mentioned the national team, so you won a couple of trophies with them as well. So how has your experience been playing with the national team?
Yeah, I loved it. You know, it was super happy, and just so much pride, you know, to where that, like, again, I tend to to be drawn to underdog type of, you know, teams, and, you know, having the option regardless, like Mexico or US, I would always pick I knew Mexico. I'm trying to be realistic too, that I see potential, you know, with this club and with every club that I go to, but even the national team, like Mexico has so much talent, so much talent. And I think right now it's in the process. You know, they brought in a new coach, a guy from Spain, and he's doing great with the team right now. And he's kind of picking and choosing who he wants, and then kind of building towards that World Cup, you know, the qualifications and stuff. So hopefully everything works out where, you know, I'm back there. But man, the trophies and stuff, like the competitions that we were in, it wasn't anything too crazy, not super big, but, you know, I think it was Centroamericanos, like that. We played over there in El Salvador. So that tournament was a good experience too. Got to play against some good national teams, and we did a few tournaments, small tournaments, Revelations Cup as well. So it was good. We won those two. I think those are the only two tournaments that I was involved in, and it was good.
Great. So that was a bit about your story. So now we can get into your mindset. So first off, do you have any practices that you do to take care of your mental health? Like, how do you deal with the highs and lows of your sport?
Man, I'm working on that still, but I will say though, like, I recently, this past 6 months, I was in search for like a therapist over there, like not necessarily a sports therapist, because I feel like it's very different, because I need to talk about everything that goes around to kind of help with the whole mentality, not just, you know, one thing. Just kind of learning a lot about myself throughout these years, because like I said, I went through things with Tigres, you know, not seeing the field and learning how to cope. That I was a mess. I'm not gonna lie. I was, you know, I didn't know how to handle it. You know, crying to my dad and my parents, same thing, like, oh, I can't take it, like, But my parents are very strong-minded too, and they're like, oh, well, you want to come back and work? All right, never mind. All right, no, never mind. So it's like having a good support system, I think, is the main thing, having somebody to talk to. And I think my parents are those type of parents that I can just lean on, my brother as well. But yeah, I feel like the mental part in our sport or in any sport, it's the strongest. The mental part has to be the strongest because it's not for the weak. A professional level is not for the weak because you got to handle, not only the team, the coaches, the staff, the club. You got to handle the fans, everything, the social media. Trust me, like that can take a toll. It could take a toll, but at the end of the day, like, it's one of those things where you just also gotta know how to disconnect, reset. And I feel like I've learned that. I've learned that, and I tend to just like sometimes turn off my phone. I don't even want to. Yeah, I kind of want to just go. It goes sometimes, but at the end of the day, like learning how to kind of reset and take those time. And like I said, I was back in Dallas 2.5 weeks. Just hit it hard because I feel like also like me coping is also hitting the fields, like I don't know, like I tend to look for anything to motivate me. It's like, all right, let's go. Like this next season is a comeback. Like it's that because I've had that. I had so much that I feel like I kind of channel my energy into using that to kind of motivate me, like anything that I went through. Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of like my type of mentality. It's just like, all right, use it. Add it to the list. Like, all right, boom, hit the fields. I'm gonna show y'all. And that's kind of like how it's been, honestly. But I get it from my dad. I get it from my dad for sure.
I do have to mention that because I looked at your Instagram caption. They're all fires, by the way. But a lot of them have to do with being doubted or being the underdog.
Yeah.
So was there a situation that stands out of a time that you were doubted or underdog, and how did you get through that time?
Man, I'll tell you, the season before I left Juarez, was my best season. But the season before that, I was still doing good. I asked for a raise from the general manager at that time because I did want to stay. I did want to continue there, and he didn't help me. And he even told me and my dad that you're not even at 50%. Like, I don't even think, you deserve that, And it's like, hey, you knew what you signed. It's not like I put a gun to your head. All right. Okay. So what did I do? I said, I used that. I went home. I busted my butt. My dad trained me. I was there every day. I was doing sessions with my strength and conditioning coach. I was trying to get faster. I was only here for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. But man, just doing those 2-a-days and training and it's just, I came back on fire. And it showed. And then I got called up to the national team. And guess who had to tell me? That same man. The first time I got called up, he had to come to me and tell me, yeah, you got called up. And I was like, am I at 50%? So things like that I'm like, I'm going to show you. So yeah, I use that underdog mentality, the doubt and all that stuff because, hell yeah, like that it should be like that. It should be like that. You should be able to prove it, but not just for them, for you. Right. To show yourself everything that you're thinking and everything that you're believing in yourself. The confidence is so important because when even if your family or anybody around you doesn't believe in you, you got to show that to yourself. You got to prove it to yourself because at the end of the day, you're the only one going to those trainings. You're the only one that's playing those games. Nobody else. Yeah. So at the end of the day, that's kind of like how I think about it or how I take things.
It's a good mindset to have. And then you transitioned to a couple different pro teams, 4 different pro teams, and that had to be difficult. So which move was the most difficult?
América was the most difficult transition. I'll tell you, man, like that team gave me hell from the staff to the players. I had a lot of friends at that time on the national team that would talk to me every day or every other day, and that was on that team on América. Hey, you gonna come? Hey, we're ready for you. We're excited. I get there, cold shoulders. Nobody talks to me, ignores me. Nobody invites me out. Nobody's, hey, let's go get some coffee. We're going to go eat after. Nope, nobody. You're on your own. No welcome, no nothing. All right. I'm the type that's like, okay, you want to talk to me, I'll talk to you, but I'm not going to go looking for friendships if, at the end of the day, I'm just somebody that's just like, okay, I reciprocate the energy. If you feel like there's something there or that you don't want to talk to me, I'm going to give you your space, So that's kind of how I felt. I was kind of like taken off because I was excited, went in there with great energy, and then boom, just that kind of hit me. And I was just like, oh. But it's nothing new. I feel like I've kind of went through things similar and growing up. I don't know. It's just maybe it's something. Maybe I give off a certain energy. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of had that. And then I ended up, towards the end of my last season, I kind of got into it with one player. Typical locker room stuff, thinking it was just going to blow over. We got in an argument and then became the whole team against me. So nobody talked to me. Nobody, really said anything to me the whole rest of the year that I was there. Almost a year. I want to say probably like 7 months later. So I was kind of to myself. Also had the coach. He didn't know how to control the environment. He didn't know how to make it a healthy environment. The comments that he would make to players were very disrespectful. Again, I try to be as professional as possible. There's a lot of things that I don't stand for, and there's a lot of things that I do stand for. So it's like I try to use my voice for the right things and also to defend myself. So I felt like a lot of the times me defending myself was they would take it more like I'm being disrespectful or I'm talking back, and it's just like, you got to listen, and I'm like, well, you can't talk to me. You can't disrespect me a certain way because that's not how I was raised. My parents don't even talk to me like this, But again, it's just kind of like picking and choosing your battles too that I'm learning. But yeah, I think, the issues that I had was mainly with the coach because he set the tone of the team and the environment and the culture. And yeah, I think it just became one of those things where it became super toxic. And then towards the end of the season, a lot of the players that I had issues with left. And the locker room changed, and it was great. The environment right now is pretty good. I think I was grateful for that because I was like, dang, another 6 months. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. But thankfully, I had more friends this last season because the season before I only had one or two. But yeah, it was tough. And then me leaving that club. It was so funny because they made it really difficult, or they tried to make it difficult. But because they bought me, they had to find a way to, get something out of me or just, I don't know. So Juárez was interested in getting me back for a minute before last season. And finally, when they let me go, they said, okay, yeah, we'll give you Miah back, but she can't play against us throughout the season. So that's the type of things I have to go through. Okay, that's fine. One game won't hurt. But when it comes to the Liga, so once it comes to the actual tournament, I will be able to play against them if I do. But yeah, during the season, I won't be able to dress out for that game. So, which... Oh my God, man, that was what I was looking forward to. Right. I was so motivated. At the end of the day, I hope that we play them when it counts, which is in Liga. So I'm like, that's fine. I'm gonna play you when I'm gonna get you where it hurts. So, and at the end of the day, it's a game. It's a competitive thing. Again, it wasn't like I think this is another thing that's kind of been in my head where, like I said, the fan base. América's fan base is crazy. They could be the best or they could be the worst. So I just feel like it's one of those things where if they don't like it, they don't like you. And I felt like I was on that side where they didn't like me, and that's okay because I feel like I got to show, look, it wasn't me. I wasn't an issue. It was them. So when I ball out over here with Juárez, it's going to show. I wasn't the issue. I never lost my level. I've been here. I just never dressed out, never got the opportunity, never had the confidence from the coach, confidence from the team. So I feel like that's something that I'm excited for, man. I just want the season to start already.
Wow. Yeah. So that's the behind the scenes that people don't see.
They don't see, man. And it's, man, the amount of times I just want to just comment back or reply because I'm human. I'm human. And there's sometimes I do. I'll be like, man, be quiet. I comment, man, be quiet. Because at the end of the day, it's like, we're human. We still see these things, and the worst part is that these people tag you in your in the comments.
They make
They'll
sure you
say,
see it.
yeah, they make sure you see it, and I'm like, okay, all right. But yeah, like I try my best to be as professional as possible, but then again, I'm like, man, like these people are behind the screens, you know. Laying on the couch, scratching their belly, like they don't care. They don't really know soccer like that, you know. But the people that see it, they know, you know, they know. And like I said, I don't need to say anything at this point. I feel like it would be nice to clear the air and kind of say, look, this is what happened. This is why I couldn't. But then again, it's like they're not. They'll choose what they want to believe, regardless, you know. So I'm at the point right now. It's like I want to tell you. I'll show you.
Right, it's a good mentality to have. But how did you deal with that 6-month period where your whole team was against you, the whole club was against you? How did you get through that? Because that's very difficult.
It was hard. After the argument that I had with one of the girls, you know, it became an isolating type of thing where they separated me from the team. They told me, hey, you're going to train with the U19 girls. You're not going to train with the team. You're going to do fitness on one field, and that's all I did. So it was a punishment. They made me do fitness while everybody was there training. I was on another field running, doing fitness. And that's kind of how I ended this last season too with América. The girls know. The girls know that I wasn't in any trouble in a sense where I wasn't looking for it. It was just more like defending myself. And yeah, so towards the end of the season or halfway through the season, it was just an argument off the roster. Me and this other girl that they treated almost the same. They had us running the whole entire time. Man, were we fit. Where we were fit.
The bright side.
We were so fit, but that's okay. At first, I hated. I was so mad. But then I said, it's okay. Get me fit. Get me fit for my next team. Get me fit. That's fine. Because then I kind of try to switch it, you know, because I will say, like, I was so mad. I would call my parents. And, you know, my parents didn't really believe me at first about everything that I was going through because I felt like I had issues in Juárez. And then going to América, I had issues over there. And it's like, oh, there she goes again. You know, girl to cry wolf, like, at this point. And then it had to take my mom going to visit me and one of my only friends there, she ended up getting cut. And she told my mom everything that she went to because she signed a year. And then after the season, I want to say a day or two after, they cut her. And they told her that she was going to stay. But then they cut her, and the general manager didn't even tell her that her agent had to tell her. So the professionalism wasn't there. And my friend ended up telling my mom her experience. And my mom's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Miah. Like, I had no idea you were going through that. And I'm like, girl, I told you. Like, what are you talking about? I told you. But they also had to hear from somebody else to kind of give them that reassurance. Like, oh, yeah, my daughter is, like, telling the truth. Like, you know. And it kind of sucked, but I feel like I probably am pretty dramatic on a lot of things, on the way that I, you know, come across and things like that. So having to go to training and doing all that stuff, like, it was tough, but it made me stronger, man. It definitely, like, built me because the coach was he loves to play mental games. He likes to test you, see how, you know, how he can push you. And he thinks he's doing something good, but he's not. You know, one time he told a player that I'm going to make you hit rock bottom so you can't go any lower. Right. You can only go up from here. And she was doing good. The whole season she was doing good. But he felt the need to tell her that, hey, I'm going to probably bench you. So you need to, you know, be prepared. Yeah. But I laugh because it's like, you're not going to break me. I know what you're doing, you know. So him trying to do all those things throughout my year and a half there, he couldn't.
I'm sorry that happened. I don't know why it happened, but one of the reasons might have been your star power. Like, because you've changed your hairstyle, changed your hair color multiple different times from black to blonde to red. And so what I want to know is, take me back to the first time you decided to change your hairstyle, chop it all off and dye your hair. What was the motivation behind that?
My thing is, like, I tend to do, like, something drastic. I need a drastic change. Okay, I've been boring for way too long. Let me see what I can change up. And that's how it kind of happened, because I actually had extensions, and the guy that put them in messed them up. So I was like, I don't want them out. But I was like, let's go ahead and shave it. So that's what I did. I shaved it, and I ended up donating most of my hair. So So yeah, that was like in the month of October, the breast cancer awareness and stuff. So I ended up donating my hair. And
Was it an expression of your personality, or like kind of create a brand and look?
yeah, I feel like I said, man, if anybody could pull it out, it could be me. I said, well, because I would ask, my friends, like, hey, what do you think? What do you think? And they're like, yeah, like that'll look dope. Like, okay, cool. That would go with you. And I think it does go with me.
To do that, you have to be a confident person. So how did you build that confidence, even during the times when people were against you? How do you have that confidence?
I was just confident in myself. I've always been a confident person. Yeah, I think anybody that knows me know I'm pretty confident in myself. I know what I bring to the table. I know what I offer any club. Whether that's in relationships and whatever. Like I feel like I'm a very confident person.
Was there ever like a mental weakness that you have, like whether it's confidence or resilience that you had to build over time?
Yeah, of course. I mean, going through that period of time where not knowing how to handle being on that side of the field where you're on the bench. Coping with that, knowing how to handle that. And I felt like I handled that pretty well over there in América because when I was in Tigres, I did not know how to handle that. I was just kind of like a mess, calling my parents every other day, like crying and stuff. And then when it got to América, it was just like, okay, well, it is what it is. Like, gotta see it through now. And I did that, and I don't think it was necessarily the playing time that hurt me or that, made me feel bad or anything. It was more like the relationships and the club and the team. And it was just like, that kind of took me back because I know that if I had the support of the club and the team, it would have been a way different environment, way different experience for me. And I think it would have showed on the field, And then I want to say for a year there, I would always get comments like, why isn't Miah smiling? Why isn't Miah with the team? Why isn't the team around Miah? Like, that's one of those things where I was just like, oh, it is what it is. But people saw that and like, oh, Mia's just problematic. Miah just didn't want to be with the team. Or, no, don't get me wrong. I tried from the get, but they weren't welcoming. They weren't cold-shouldered. They were cold-shouldered. So what do you want me to do? You want me to force myself, into those, those cliques? I'm not going to do that, Like I said, I spoke to whoever spoke to me. It is what it is. But I'm a strong believer in that everything will work out, You're on your own little journey, and everything happens for a reason. So I'm a strong believer in that.
The dark motivation might be proving people wrong. Do you have a light motivation of like inspiring other young girls?
I mean, you got to love it. And if you really, really love it, it's not work. Right. It's not that, it's not going to be something that you're like dreading to go every single day. No, you're going to love doing what you're doing. So if you honestly really love it and you see yourself, in this profession, it's the dedication, it's the discipline. Because I feel like growing up, I was always at the fields. And whether that was in club, whether that was playing pickup soccer, even throughout my high school years, I grew up playing free play, futsal, all that stuff. With the boys, with the girls, Sunday leagues. Like, it was just like I lived for it, and I love to do that. And even early in my career in Tigres and early at Juárez, I would be like, hey, is there any tournaments? Like, I want to play. You don't got to pay me, just like, I just want to play, And it's just the love that I have for it because I honestly enjoy doing what I do. And I'm so, so blessed to have this as my work, as my job. And I will say, though, I had to do something almost every other day because I knew what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. So it's not easy. My dad, he used to have like Friday night skills, and I was there, his little demonstrator since I was 10, U10. So doing that every Friday, every week, just boom, going over the coverage skills and just the basics. And every time I come back or every time I'm doing a drill, it's the basics again and again, the repetition. And I feel like you got to go back to that, You got to go back to that. And like I said, it's the dedication, the discipline, because I know what got me here. So I got to make sure I'm doing that. So, yeah, that's kind of...
It's inspiring. I'm ready to go work out now.
Yeah, for real, right?
Yeah. Before we finish, I'd like to ask you the final 5. These are the final 5 questions I ask every athlete.
Okay.
So the first one is, what's a misconception about being a pro athlete?
Honestly, I tie it to like the social media stuff. I feel like everybody just thinks, we gotta be held to a standard or to, these expectations of like the pro players. You can say whatever you want to them, but I feel like people read them, and I feel like that's something that again, disconnect is super important, but like what you say as well on the internet, like it does stick to people. Some people take it and use it, like me. Other people, it hits hard, and I've seen that. I've seen that on especially in that league, you know. And yeah, I think that's like a big misconception that people think, oh, it's just they're pro athletes. They get all that. They get all this all the time. The comments all the time. They should know how to take. No.
What's the memory that at the time felt like the worst in your career, but now you can look back at it and laugh, or at least see the value in it?
My worst, where I was the lowest, was probably my second ACL, and that was in high school, because I thought, oh, I'm not gonna get recruited by my dream school, you know, all of this stuff, and I just thought I had to have this plan. It had to be this way in order to get to where I wanted, because that's what it had to be at that time, and I think going through that, it showed me a lot. It showed me that it's not the end of the world. Injuries come, you know, and I feel like it's also because I told myself after the first one, like, I worked my butt off. I had 4 years mentally prepared to prepare for the surgery. So I was like, I know that me working my butt off for this first surgery and coming back, I'm gonna be good. Came back 6-7 months later, the other knee, and it was just like, oh, the end of the world. I'm like, because I told myself, if I tear it again, that's it. I'm done. Like, I'm quitting. Man, no. I said, no, this can't be it. Like, this can't be it. And it's just, I know now that, God forbid, but if it happens again, I know how to handle it, and I know how to take it. It's going to be a process, but I know how to handle it. Yeah.
Those lessons learned helped you throughout your career whenever you went through other conflicts as well.
Yeah.
So the opposite of that, what's the best memory of your career?
National team. National team, and calling my parents and my dad, telling them that I got the first call up. It was such a great experience. It just makes me so happy just thinking about it, because that's what it's all about. You know, I want to play at the highest level. My ultimate goal is to play a World Cup. You know, so that was just like the first step.
All right. What's some advice you could give to a younger athlete that wants to be in your position?
Love and dedication, discipline, and you got to be mentally prepared, because that's the biggest thing. Everything would be 90% mental and 10% physical, 100%. Trainings, games, all that stuff. Like, I feel like it all boils down to that mental.
All right, last question. How do you define the word winner? So,
knowing that I left the field giving everything that I have. So that for me is the biggest thing, knowing that I leave the field with no regrets. That's when I won. I'm good, because I did all I could. Win, lose, or draw, I did all I could.